Hello. For this essay, I am going to be discussing the way that monotheism impacted ancient Africa and spread across Africa. There were a lot of different things that took place during this time, including migrations, the Trans Saharan Network, and other trade networks. This had impacts on political authority, and it ended up blending a lot of cultures and spreading the adaptation of different monotheistic religions such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islamic religions, and this spread across Africa. Um, Bantu migrations were very significant in this time as they utilized new parts of land, and they migrated as they were using the land and ended up needing to go new areas. Along with that, they also spread religious beliefs, and the Sahel did a similar thing as they established the towns and settlements. They also were moving across Africa, and they were also spreading their religious beliefs. This was very important as it allowed them to connect with new groups that were um, maybe not, in connections with some of these religious ways, and so by connecting those ways, they were able to spread these religious beliefs that they had. As far as timelines, Judaism actually goes back a lot further than any of the other monotheistic religions, and it dates back pre BCE for quite a long time, and there's some mentionings as early as like 1400 BCE, I believe. I might be mistaken on that. That Abraham was first mentioned, which is one of the connections to Judaism. But it did spread through Africa and Ethiopia, Egypt. It was all across all of this. Christianity then became known in this area as early as the first century, and continued to spread all the way through the sixth century. And the latest to come to this country was the religion of Islam, which took place around the seventh century and started to spread, therefore, after. In general, what it was is monotheism was a new type of religion to this area, as before this, a lot of the settlers in this area, a lot of the communities in this area were polytheistic, and so this was a new belief of monotheism, which allowed the adaptation of new types of religion. As this expanded into Sudanic West Africa, one of the most important aspects were the merchant networks. Obviously, being in the Trans Saharan networks, the merchants played a very significant role as they established these networks. They would not only be trading their goods amongst the people, but they would also allow religious scholars to come and spread their word of religion. And so this was something that was able to help spread the word and increase the populations that were following different types of religion, whether they were spreading the word of Christianity, Islamic, or Judaism, and it was up to the people to decide which one they would like to be a part of. Another thing that was kind of unique at this time was kings and rulers knew that they needed to be able to continue expanding their kingdoms. And one of the ways that they were able to expand their kingdoms is by adapting and adopting. So they would adopt a religion and say, okay, yeah, I'm I'm part of this Islamic religion now, so I would like to, you know, become allies with you, and we could all go under the same kingdom. And so this was a strategic move that allowed them to increase the size of their kingdoms. Something else that these rulers and kingdoms would do is they would create these urban centers. And these urban centers, which still exist to this day, were locations for the masses to go and worship together. And so they would say, come one, come all. Think of it, this is where we can all come and worship the same. And so this was also a great way of expanding the religions. And going back to this chapter went into great detail about how the Trans-Saharan Network, which was a very, very long trade network, was utilized to spread religion. As this expansion happened with the Trans-Saharan Network, it also ended up expanding into other areas, so like the Swahili coast. So this Indian Ocean where that Swahili coast ends up meeting allows Christianity and Islam to be spread to other areas even further outside, such as parts of India and Southeast Asia. So, it was like this, as they found more distances and were able to travel further, they were able to continue to spread the word of their religion and get more followers to connect to this. A lot of the port cities, which are the cities that are around the waterways, became very famous for Islamic trade, and they would actually, even if they weren't part of the Islamic trade, they were more tolerant to another type of religion. Say if they were, Christians and the Islamics were coming there to trade, because this trade was good for everybody, and it allowed that expansion of goods to go further and further. So there was a lot of support for possibly for being different. One of the things that was really important is during these times, rulers and leaders were not only political authority, but they were also the heads of religious authority. And what this did is this gave them like the ultimate power, you could say, of where they were able to spread not only their kingdom by enforcement, but also by religious ways. And so this really helped create a distinct pathway for ruling these areas. And something that is very unique in another way is there were a lot of interconnections in physical and spiritual worlds. And so a lot of worship happened as prior to this, a lot of polytheistic was worshiping of many different things, animals, elements, both the live world and the dead world. There was just such an expanded amount that it really it became this coupling of just kind of like all of the above. And so this interconnection kind of happened between worshiping of life and death and just everything in between. Trade was definitely and has always been a driver for many things, including religious change. As West Africa was able to connect different parts of North Africa and the Middle East, because the Trans-Saharan Network spread across all of this. And so what this did is it helped spread the adaptation of Islamic worship along with other religions. But Islam seemed to be one of the most followed religions during this time. I'm not going to say that it was a specific number that equaled more followers, but it seems like that this area really liked to adapt to that. So as that trade expanded, it would come and impact more African trading towns such as Gao and the Kambui Sahil, which is the capital of the Ghana Empire. And so what this means is, you can see this timeline of saying, okay, so Christianity started around the 1st century, and then the Islamic study of Islam was around the 7th century, and this just they kind of continued this spreading of their religious beliefs, and this really helped with getting more and more followers all the time. One of the challenges in Africa, as I've mentioned previously, and has gone into detail in our textbook, is the fact that older beliefs were held onto with great force. They did not want to give up these beliefs, even with the adaptations of new religious ways. So, what would happen to this? This would actually mean that there would be a blending. So, you would say, okay, well, I kind of like how they say this, but I still want to believe in this. And so, that is where this kind of Africanized worship started coming into play, because it would be taking the old and the new and combining them into one view and belief system. So it may not have followed all the exact rules of what one of these religions laid out, but in the end, religious beliefs are religious beliefs, and depending on where your foundation is and how strict you are, to them it mattered, and they felt that it was just fine. Um, when it comes to like conflicts are always going to be a part of it. You don't believe what I believe, so obviously a lot of wars were fought in ancient Africa that were because of difference of beliefs, and so this was something that happened throughout the centuries, and caused a lot of unnecessary battles. Just to when in all honesty, all religions that are monotheistic is the worshiping of one God, and it seems that they're always speaking about the same God. It's just how they worship it. So I would say, overall, in conclusion, the significance of religion in ancient Africa is something that was very valuable, as it allowed the connection of multiple groups of people, the Bantu, the Sahel, the Mali Empire, and several other groups to all unify in their own ways under religious views. And so this historical impact is something that has reverberated all the way through to modern times. And I really feel like religion is necessary in order to give faith. We are only on this planet for a period of time, and guidance is always appreciated. And I think that religion gives the guidance that is necessary for people to live a good, meaningful life while on earth. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good day.